Hello, Jason. So good to have you here on my show today.
It's so good to be here.
Yes, for my listeners, I have Jason Squires here, who is a creative and works with a lot of creatives. And, in my work with as a leadership coach, I get to work with all styles of leaders. And some of the leaders I work with that are highly, highly creative, I think this conversation is going to be for you. Whether you are actually in the workplace and you're creative on the side, or whether you actually are running your own creative business, just whatever this is and wherever you're at, I believe each of us have the power to create, and even how we might use our creative spaces to be able to step into a thriving life versus a surviving life. So this is a conversation I've been really looking forward to have. And I'm also an artist, so I have my own creative spaces. I've started selling my own paintings now and enjoying that even as a business. But the whole idea of creativity and where it takes us, I think this is going to be an exciting conversation, because I think it's what helps us refuel as leaders. So let's jump in. Before we do, Jason, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Totally. My name is Jason Squires, and I have been married to my amazing wife for 15 years. We just celebrated our 15-year anniversary. Got three
Congrats.
amazing kids. Thank you. Three amazing daughters. I live in a house full of women, which is real fun. I grew up in a house full of I have two older brothers, and so I grew up with all brothers, and so to have all girls, it's a drastic change in life, which is great. It's a great thing. Pink is a load of laundry, which I didn't actually know that was a possible thing, but it's good. And then I've been a worship leader, traveling around leading worship at churches. And then I also have a huge love for creatives, and just I am one. And I grew up in a house where creativity was not necessarily a thing, and so kind of understanding that, and then trying to help creatives now. We just recently launched a new company called The Creative Launch. And the whole purpose of it is to launch creatives with the tools to be successful. And so we do coaching, one-on-one coaching with creatives, and then offering workshops and trainings and in-person stuff as well as online. And just to say, you have a purpose and you have a reason, and you have, there's a reason that artists have managers, and because managers help the business side of things, and creatives kind of get lost in the world. And so
Right.
I want to help kind of be that manager to the creatives and go, hey, let's help you be successful.
Oh, I love it. Oh my gosh. I love that, because our world needs it and our creatives need it.
Yeah.
They get overwhelmed with that productive side and that management side. And all they want to do is really step into their creativity and share that with the world. And our world needs it. So to have that kind of alliance or partnership with them out there, what a gift.
Oh, thank you. And the thing is a lot of that comes in as negativity too. Is the like if a creative's not understood, they take it on as oh, I guess I didn't do that right, and now I'm just going to kind of forget and kind of mold with society rather than continuing to live in the creative side. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, what do we celebrate? Especially in North America here, what do we celebrate is productivity, and success looks like making money. And it's not enjoying and skipping through the park and collecting butterflies and thinking about your next song or painting, is it?
That's right. That's what you do on the side. You don't actually do that as, if you have time to do those things, that's what you do on the side.
Yeah. And you don't tell anyone you do it. You just kind of do it and keep it a secret. Otherwise you feel like a fool.
Yes, that's right. That's so good. It's so true.
Well, let's start with, when we talked, you said that the bracelet, and this is going kind of to the creative side, and this is why I wanted to talk with you more about this. I started my book with an allegory, the bracelet. Tell us a little bit about how that allegory has really impacted you as a creative and even just as a human being.
Totally. Creatives tend to kind of gel with society, and meaning accepting everything that you tell us about. And so, which with the allegory of the bracelet is such a good picture, because everything, as soon as you tell me I haven't done something right, or it doesn't look right, or that you can't do that, I take that on as truth. And I take that on as like, oh, you must know more than I do, because I'm over here creating, but you're over there looking like a successful space. And so, and then also just taking on the identities of everything else that the world tells us we're supposed to do, because creatives don't have that business side. or don't have that that engagement with society side. We just kind of go, oh, okay, because it's a creatives tend to they thrive in community, and so in community, whether good or bad, comes from a place of whether it's good or bad. We're still bringing that in, and we're taking that on, and years and years of that. All of a sudden, I can't lift my arms up because I've taken on so much of somebody else's idea of what I'm supposed to look like and what I'm supposed to be. Then I have to go and unpack all that. I grew up in a house where it was like, you're gonna play baseball, you're gonna love sports. I'm like, I'm gonna play guitar, I want a musician. Well, no, you're actually gonna play baseball because that's what you do. Like, kids go out and play soccer. I'm like, I want to take guitar lessons and I want to work on. And then as I went into college, I was like, I don't even know what I am. Like, I don't even know who I am or what I'm doing. And I had to go in and kind of like take off each one of those bracelets to say and go, that's not who I am as a creative. And it took me well into marriage. I mean, we talk high school, college, into marriage to actually realize that it's okay to be creative. It's okay to find a way to do things, and like actually dive deep into all those creative things, because you start realizing that everything around you was created by somebody, and so it's like, let's let those creatives thrive, because that new ideas come out of that. And Walt Disney said it best on his opening day at Disneyland. He said, as long as there's imagination left in the world, Disneyland will never be complete. And it's my favorite quote, because it's like, if he had not gone against society, we wouldn't have Disneyland. We wouldn't have the idea of Disney, because, I mean, it's a orange grove in Southern California, and he was constantly being told what to do and how it looks and and he was like, I don't know. This is like, we're going to open up this place where people can come. And I mean, in my mind, he's like the lead creative, where it was just like kind of pushing back against all of that.
Yes. I was just finishing up the show Obi-Wan Kenobi off of Disney, and it just made me think of Disney buying the Star Wars rights.
Yes.
And I turned to my husband, I said, how much did you buy it for? We, of course, had to Google it. $4 billion. Billion. So Disney was like, we're
do you want that in small bills or big,
exactly.
Like a paper check? Here's the check. Like, yeah, right.
So, they saw still the potential for more creativity there. And that was just off of George Lucas's work with Star Wars. And I just thought, wow. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, it's that quote. I mean, as long as there's imagination left, Disneyland will never be complete. Like, we're never going to stop thinking and growing and being like, think about the things they've fought. And it's like, no, we are still innovating. Like, let us innovate and let us grow and let us be. And so I love it.
I want to go back to what you said too, about how you didn't quite know it was like this identity confusion almost, because it sounded like there was a bias of who you needed to be, whether it was a gender bias or whether it was just parenting bias of what they thought kids should be doing at that time. And you were trying to message. Makes me think of that part in the allegory. And for our listeners, just a reminder, it's about this little girl who gets given a bracelet, and she loves this bracelet, and she's still able to go on her tire swing that she loves and lay under the stars and enjoy life. But she starts getting too many bracelets, and pretty soon she has to stop doing what she loves. So this is a little bit of what we're talking about here. And Jason, it makes me think about the question I guess I want to ask you is, I go into good givers and bad givers, right, in my book. And I'm thinking about, and again, this is no slam against your parents or anything. My goodness, we're all doing the best we can, but they were probably trying to raise you in the way that they saw, but you were trying to message them, I don't want that bracelet. I'm hearing that it kind of did some identity confusion for you. And I guess the question I want to ask you is, who were some of the givers, the good givers in your life that kind of helped you restore that sense of self and that identity?
My wife, 100%. And she, I went to freshman year of college, and I went in to actually become a youth pastor. And I remember sitting down with her one day, and I was like, I'm so excited about youth choirs and youth band, and actually like helping these young musicians thrive. And she was like, she basically said, "You're an idiot." Like, it was like, you don't, I mean, she's like, "Do you understand what you're saying here?" And I was like, "No." And she's like, you're going into the wrong field. Like, this is not, like, you don't want to be a youth, like, you want to be, you want to work with musicians, and you want to work with creatives. And that was actually one of the first conversations where I kind of was like, whoa, wait a minute.
Wow.
I all my life had thought, I never in a million years realized I was this budding creative. It was just, it was always like, that was just kind of like a thing to the side where, like, yeah, you play music, but what's that? You can't, I grew up hearing you can't do that as a career, or you can't, like, nobody goes into music and supports a family unless you make it big. And this was, of course, many years ago, before any of these like make it big TV shows where anybody can, or
Yeah.
this is long before all this
Yeah.
kind of easier to make it big in the music world. But like, it's not. My wife and we were dating, and then got engaged and got married, and she was the biggest like advocate to go, you're not actually living to your potential. And you need to, I mean, Casey, where she's like,
Yeah.
everything she says that I want to write down, because it's such like these wisdom bombs.
Yes.
And she was the biggest like advocate. And to this day, anytime that I come home like drained, or she has the ability to like kind of like refill that, and remind me that there's a reason to continue moving forward. And there's a reason to continue being who I am as a creative.
So let's go down that path a little bit. What does fill you up, and what does drain you? You can start either in that question, but as we look at like what's been your tire swings and what's been your time under the stars, tire swings kind of representing active rest, and then time under the stars is contemplative rest, but both are restorative types of rest.
Yeah. I think for me, draining things involve spreadsheets and paperwork, and just the stuff that's like not, there's nothing exciting in that. I know it's part of life, like part of operating a business, part of being in the world. You have to do your taxes, and you have to do all the stuff, like the draining things, and then so that is all very draining. I am the stuff that fills me up is when I can like look out at an ocean, look out at a big space. I'm a big guy, and so I love looking at in spaces that are bigger than I am. So it's like standing on the beach, just staring at the ocean, standing on a mountainside. We were just in Hawaii in June, and Waimea Canyon in Kauai is the Grand Canyon of Kauai, and it just the Grand Canyon but colorful, and it just is. I could stood there for hours. You just stand there, and it's like everything inside of me, just all the stress just kind of like quickly leaves, and it's one of those moments of just realizing that you're this little person and doing your task over here. You're part of the world, but the world is so big, and so constantly being reminded of that. I love actually physically laying under the stars. A couple months ago, there was a meteor shower late at night. We got our oldest up at 11 o'clock at night and literally laid on the backyard on a blanket and just was counting the stars going across the sky. And it was that moment. It's those things of like looking into big space is really my where I find rest and where I find the chance to like clear my head. So.
Oh, I love that. Gosh, I just found myself exhaling as you were talking. I think I was holding my breath. I didn't even realize it. I'm picturing oceans and stars, and I'm right there with you, just getting out in nature. It's so soothing to the soul, isn't it?
The thing I love about what you brought up in this book here is I'm slowly trying to make my life like not like living in that space, and it's not to the point of like, because right now it's like you try and get to that place of rest when you're exhausted, and it's like how do you actually just do life to where you don't get exhausted, and I'm trying, that's finding those spaces of rest. I'm actually trying to build that into my day-to-day routine, so that it's not, you go, I'm going to be more productive if I can actually stop and not be productive, which sounds counterintuitive, but it's it's that chance to go, finding rest regularly instead of going, I need to make it to the weekend so I can try and fill up a little bit before I get drained again next week.
Yeah. Yeah. I found too, that I like what comes out of me in a creative sense, or even in a productive sense, what comes out of me once I refueled. Let me ask you about that. What do you do? You talked about the big open spaces, but now you're looking at this daily thing. And I think this reminds me of the conversations we had last time, huh?
Yep.
Learn how to do a daily rhythm, a weekly rhythm, a monthly rhythm, and an annual rhythm, which I call the Thrive Plan. But give us a little idea as you're trying to be more mindful of this, of just not waiting till you're exhausted and burned out, but to stay a little bit more refueled during the day. What are you doing daily?
So creatives need clear brain space in order to be creative. A lot of the ideas happen inside of our brains. And if our brains are full of stuff, you think about a garage and you're like, you try and put the car in the garage when the garage is full. It doesn't work. You have to actually go in and clear out space so you can pull the car in the garage. I had always been an advocate for like getting to the weekend and getting to vacation, and then realizing now I actually have time in my schedule to be creative. And so Tuesdays and Thursday mornings from 8 a.m. to noon, it's literally blocked off in my calendar where I won't schedule meetings, and I won't. It's time to write, to build, to. I have my own podcast where I have to create content, and so in those hours I can go, like the rest of the week I can go, I know on Tuesday I'm going to have 4 hours where I don't have to have any responsibility. And so as I get through the week, instead of like these things that I know I need to be doing are mounting, I can push them and go, on Thursday I get to sit down for 4 hours and do a project. And so I've been doing that now probably, we're probably 6 months into it. And it's now to the point where like, we went on vacation, like to Hawaii. And I, at the end of the week, was like, I'm exhausted. And I realized I didn't actually have that creative time in my time in Hawaii, because we were doing other things, snorkeling and running around and, sightseeing, which is fun. But I've become so accustomed now to knowing in in the rhythm of my week, I have time to sit and write and sit. I started sketching out the framework of a book, and which if you would have told me that a year ago, I would have been like, you're crazy. I have no time to actually do any of those things.
Yeah.
But being intentional about it, and it's almost like, because we never miss appointments. If you have a lunch appointment on a Tuesday, you're not going to miss that appointment, or you're also not going to overbook that appointment when you pull out your schedule and go, like, I have something planned that day. I don't ever tell people what I have planned that day, but if they say, can we meet on Thursday morning at 9 a.m., I go, oh, sorry, I have another meeting that day. And which I know that means I'm meeting with myself, but I wouldn't trade it for the world, because it's now given me, like, there's a rhythm to it, to where I know that I can get the things done that I want to get done, and I'm not trying to squeeze creativity in between work tasks. It's like nobody needs me for the next 4 hours.
Yeah.
I now know that's, so I'm actually, coming into the fall, I'm probably going to add a third day, because it was like, it's one of those things where you're like, it's becoming such a good thing where I'm like, I want to continue to do that. But the crazy part is, in that moment, I'm actually experiencing rest, because you find rest in when you're doing things that you love and it's not work. And so, so
I love that you're bringing that up, because that really is the definition of restorative rest. It's just, it looks different for everyone.
Right.
And in our culture, we actually think getting 8 hours of sleep is rest. Our definition is so limited. Then we have these people that are literally kind of like creative lists and just running on fumes and struggling. And we see all the stats, right? The depression, the anxiety, the fears, everything, the anger going up in our society. I really think this is the core issue, that we have not learned how to create a language around this to really find our cadence and our rhythm as a society, but also honoring individuals. And I'm with you. I have to have an unstructured day, and I love that you're taking 2 days a week in the morning for 4 hours. 4 hours goes like that as a creative, doesn't it?
100%.
Yeah. And then I'm realizing that the importance of, as we talk about the daily, the weekly, the monthly, the annual, I'm in my kind of annual right now, where I realize I just cannot work 12 months. I just can't.
Yeah.
I have to take off the whole month of July. And so being able to just relax and regroup, first of all, you get in touch with how tired you are.
Yep.
Second of all, you kind of like find yourself again. You go, well, there you are, Heather. I've missed you. I've missed you. I mean,
I actually like myself.
You're pretty cool. We actually have fun together when you just stop getting off that hamster wheel. And if you think that of yourself, you're probably, your kids and your spouse probably think that too. They're like, welcome back, Mom. We've missed you. Thank you for running the company, running the world, but your intensity.
Welcome back, Mom.
Yeah, it was a little bit much.
That's right. Well, you mentioned something a second ago I want to go back to.
Sure.
I'm used to being the podcast host, so I just kind of took over for a second, but
I love it. I'm going to lean back. You keep going, man.
You just keep talking. No, you just keep drinking and you enjoy it. And so you talked about depression a little bit as a creative, and I think I want to make sure this is one of the reasons we started the creative launch is the depression is really big in creatives, and it comes from a place of always being in our heads and always being not 100% knowing that society wants us or wants us to be around or knows how to deal with us. You get it a lot in comedians. Comedians are their outlet is comedy, and so a lot of comedians if you listen to what they're talking about, it's a little bit self-deprecating. But that's how they handle the getting some of those thoughts out of them. And I mean, sadly, we've lost Robin Williams and it just there's other people that we've lost, and it's comes from that such a deep depression, which is why it's so important to find that space and find those places and find those people, and be I always like to say to find your person, and to where no matter what you say in and around them, like they're going to be fine with all the ideas that come out of your head, but not to leave them in your head, and that which is where we can thrive in those moments and actually get those thoughts out of us, because otherwise it's gonna mount, and eventually we have to push it all out, and it's better to push out little ideas than try and push out the whole of what's happening inside of you.
Well, and I love that you brought that up, because we are so complex. We're beautifully complex as human beings, and especially the more creative you are, the higher your intelligence is, this will be your challenge to find not only your person, I'm going to say your people, your community. And going back to what you said earlier about we need community, learning how to identify that type of community you need becomes more complex. I'm thinking about myself as a businesswoman. My creativity is one as a painter and artist, but it's also as a coach. The way I create the curriculum that I coach and the book that I write, that's a creative format for me as well. And so I live and breathe as a creative. But I still have to run the company. I still have to pay the bills. I still have to make life work. I still got to support my family, all these good things. And how to make that not a bracelet that weighs us down, but a bracelet that allows us to still enjoy our tire swing in the stars is really how we mature. And I think the more, and this is probably the shadow side of success, the more successful we are, and I'm going to put success in air quotes. Sometimes the more miserable we can get, because we don't realized that one person isn't enough. We now need a team around us. Or I was just reading a book this morning about this amazing woman who's in my life, and she's writing this book on a business consulting. It's like a business consulting book. And I read the whole introduction, and then I got off and I immediately texted her. I said, I'm thinking I need to talk with you. I didn't even know that I needed her because it's not the way my brain works and thinks. But as I read everything about it, I go, I think I need you in my life. And so recognizing that as creatives, we have to find our people, but that team grows and grows and grows. And I have more people in my life than I've ever had in my company. But I can't believe how I keep needing that. Oh, I need that new niche there. I need that, from a social media manager to my editor, to my content manager, to my operations, my client relations. I mean, I even have names for all these people, and that's just my business.
Yeah, that's right.
Then I look over my personal side and I'm thinking, we love marriage counselors. I love a spiritual director. I'm working with a personal counselor right now. I have these certain types of friends that I just totally love and enjoy, but I need certain types of friends. When I begin to realize, oh, you expect me to call you every day and talk with you? Oh, that is not me. When I learned how to define the type of friend that I both need and who I can be, I had so many people go, oh, thank God that's not me either. And I go, how long have we been playing this tricky dance? You talk about a bracelet. So, and in the professional world, we can define them a little bit more, but in the personal world, I guess I want to speak to that, Jason. As we're both maturing and running families and companies now.
Yep.
Your tribe or your community or your support team is growing both personally and professionally. Where are you seeing that happen in your life?
You kind of hit the nail on the head there, because it is you have to continue to, welcome people in, but it's hard. Mm-hmm. It's hard because you're kind of letting people into your bubble, and it's hard to let them out of your bubble. Once they're in your bubble, it's really difficult to get them out. And so, I will say though, one thing that we've struggled with. For 15 years, I've been on the road as a worship leader, and we're really good at being surface level with people. Just because I'm in and out of a church, and we realized because this is probably several years ago now, but we realized we were really good at being surface level and a lot more picky on going deep, because it's living in a position where you're always up in front of people, and people listening to this podcast, leaders know this really well. And you're up in front of people, it's hard to actually come off and be personal with people, because you're used to being not personal. And so we've building community here where we live, and with close friends that we are know everything about us, and then we're working on. Just from a business perspective, you start adding those people into your life where you're like, I know, with you helping me, build my online presence, and adding all those little facets. But yeah, it's not something I do well, because that's I keep the community really small. But I try to. It's something that I know I'm daily working on. Because it's and now I also, as a dad of 3 daughters, it's really been eye-opening to me, where it's like, I think being personal, or being open to bringing people into my kids' lives, and making sure that everything that they're saying is speaking, grace and peace and love over my kids, and not being condemning or sarcastic, or it's making sure that you protect that process as well. So it's a tricky balance.
It really is. It makes me think, going back to that allegory too, she's a little girl, and the end of the story, she's a woman. But I think, isn't that part of maturing? When you're little, you're handed all these bracelets. When you get older, you start realizing, do I want this bracelet?
Yep.
And how long have I been wearing this?
That's right.
And which ones do I want to take off, and which ones do I want to put on? And who gave me this one? And did I even like this person who gave me that?
That's right.
I think we just learn how to evolve, and even going back to how we invite people in our life. we've all made those mistakes. We're like, ooh, how do I either uninvite them? How did this guest become now an intruder? Has happened to some of us, right? And
Yes.
and I thought, well, my responsibility is learning how to say a little bit more upfront, almost like educating people on me. But I can't educate people on me unless I really know myself to say, oh, before we go down this trail where we have a couple of years where you're hurt because I'm not calling you every day, let me just tell you up front. I mean, I've learned how to say that at 52.
This is who I am.
In my 30s. Yeah. And then I was like, I'd had people hurt because they were expecting something out of a friendship or they were expecting something out of the professional. And I think I'm learning more and more. It's my responsibility to lovingly and graciously, put it up front and say, this is really my best to offer, whether it's a friendship or whether it's a professional relationship or whether I'm serving you as a client. This is what I get to offer. And it's my job to be able to articulate it. But sometimes we don't even know. We just realize we've been balancing all these bracelets. But I think that's part of maturing, is going, yeah, I've taken that bracelet off and I'm no longer balancing it. And now it's my job to start telling people, because they might have known me as, but you always said yes. And I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's when I was a stay-at-home mom. I was able to just meet you for lunch every day.
Yeah, right. Right.
Now I don't even take a lunch break. My world is blown up,
Yeah.
So recognizing too, just how we speak up about, hey, this is really my best to offer, and even apologizing, saying, yeah, I'm sorry. That's who I used to be, but this is now who I am. And this is what I'm looking for. I have found people really appreciate that. And I can't tell you how many people have breathed a sigh of relief going, well, now I know. I've even had people who've been disappointed and they've told me, well, I'm disappointed, but thanks for telling me. And I'm like, awesome. How are we going to go here?
Yeah.
We actually can stay friends because they're realizing, oh, this was actually something that I didn't even realize that I knew about you. But now that I know this, I feel like I can do this.
Yeah. And I think, especially in the ministry world, there's so much, like, you're up in front of people and kind of the congregation expects you to look and sound and be a certain way. And then you want them to, it's like, I as myself also want to be open. And so a lot of people in ministry find their circles maybe outside of that, the congregation. 'Cause it's like, you got to find those places and the places, there's people to be honest and, open with. But also the one thing that I'm realizing quickly is that the people that are okay with that are okay with you telling them this is who I am, those are the people you want to hang out with. Those are the people that, and if they're not okay with that, then you realize the relationship is built on them needing you to do something. And and I think that's something that I'm trying to remember, and because I'm a people pleaser by default, and I think creatives in general are we want everyone to be happy. We want everyone, like, life is unicorns and rainbows, and we want them to be like, we want life to just be happy. And so if you're happy, I'm happy, we're all happy. But then you realize that's actually not reality. But it's, I want you to be healthy necessarily, and healthy is being honest, and instead of, because it's one of those things, it's like you move into a neighborhood and you want to get to know your neighbors, and 5 years in, you don't know the guy's name across the street. You're like, now it's too late to ask them what their name is. And now I have to figure out what your name is, rather than, because when it would just been easier if I asked you when we moved in and wrote it down and remembered who you are. And so, the longer time goes and the more that gets added to you, you have to push it away in order to get to that point. So, yeah.
Well, that's why I'm glad we brought it up, because I do think that's one of the biggest barriers, is some of these relationships that just either they've outgrown, or it's no longer working for them, or it's never worked for them. I think that really blocks a lot of our creativity. And so how we not just manage the relationships in our life, but really invite in synergistic relationships that allow us to be more and more creative. I hire literally a bookkeeper and a CPA to free me up to coach and be creative, because I know that's what my company needs me to be able to do. That's my responsibility to my company and the people that work for me. So as I'm looking at all this and I'm looking at you, I just go, well done, because I'm watching you balance all of these moving parts and 3 beautiful young young girls, which is the busiest time. I promise you, it gets easier, Jason.
You're about to launch your youngest, so I
I
understand this completely.
Yes,
I
so I'm
appreciate
taking my 4 hours a week has morphed into like full days, full weekends. And now, I've got this full month. They're still kind of coming in and out,
Yep.
you got a text from me earlier going, my kids want to go see Top Gun. We meet a little earlier.
That's right. That's
So
right.
they're still there and I want them to be there, but I'm saving that space to play with them and connect with them.
Yep.
So that I'm not exhausted and tired and running on fumes. And so the creativity, I think, lies in every single human being. Just like I think leadership does. I think every human being has leadership within them.
Yep.
Wherever we're being creative, wherever we're leading. I guess that's where I want to leave our listeners.
Yeah.
As we wrap up, what encouragement do you want to give our listeners out there that might be looking for more inspiration, their creativity, or can sense their weariness and it's blocking any of their creativity in their life?
Totally. Dreaming is one of the big things creatives love to do. And dreaming takes risk and it's terrifying. And I just want to give creatives the permission, if it's needed, to actually do the things you're made for, do the things, run with those dreams, run with those ideas, remember though that when you get to do it, it's actually, you start realizing how fun life can be and not stressful, and living who you are and who you're made to be is just the way life should be. And I think if there are any creatives that are listening, just know that there are people in your court, and you're not living life by yourself, which it might feel like it, and it might feel like you're not you don't know when like the next step is or how to do this or what life can look like, and just know there's people out there to help and get you to that place where you can kind of live in that. Live in that creative time and live in that creative space.
I love that. What's one step they could do today, Jace?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. You caught me off guard. I was like, you caught me at a place. I was like, that's a good question. No, I think step one is to just like actually determine what it is that you want to be doing. That's not an easy task, and that's and so first step is to determine that, and then it's charting the path to how to get to where you want to be, and so that's what we do at the Creative Launch, and that's what my goal is to kind of come alongside, and I mentioned earlier, be the manager to the creatives and say like let me help you be the business side of things, and not in the business and the confusing part, and also explore that creativity and see what we can come up with.
I love it. Where can they find you?
Yes. My website is www.thecreativelaunch.com. And you can get there. It'll take you to my website, more about me and you can also find me on Instagram at Creative Launch, and also at Jason_Squires. That's Squires. It's a fun last name to spell. But yeah, any of those places. I talk a lot. I do a lot of stuff on Instagram, and then my website will also help you get to where to kind of connect with me if you're interested in kind of exploring that further.
Perfect. I love it. Well, so fun talking with you today, Jason. Thanks for taking time out of your creative day.
Absolutely. Anytime. I love, you could talk, I talk about this stuff all day. Like I love talking about it.
And I can't wait to hear about your creative conferences coming up. And
yes.
Some exciting stuff. It would be fun to be a participant there.
Love it.
All right. Take care, everyone. And we are cheering you on as you step into more and more creativity in your life, and really, more importantly, feel the excitement of being who you are uniquely made to be. Take care, everyone.
See ya.
Thanks for joining us today. We'd love a review. Helps us out quite a bit. Wherever you are, just drop a review, and you can find out more at heatherpenny.com. Cheering you on.